ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
2,000 years long, we will never settle. Hard days, no way, with a heavy metal. No time, no fail, won't stop here. Like a torch to a flame when it burns hot. We won't stop, come on, take me higher.
Good morning, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and it is that time of the day for the Breakfast Bankroll with good friend and colleague, Mr. Adam Trigger at Adam Trigger WT, and Tyler Wyatt on the second half hour. You see me smiling ear to ear. It's like Christmas Day. It's Sweet 16. In the NCAA March Madness, and it's opening day in the MLB. And for me, I get the Fenway Park backdrop today. It's a breath of fresh air because there's hope now back in Boston. The additions of Garrett Crochet, Alex Bregman, Alex Cora setting the stage and pulling Devers aside and say, hey, pal, you're going to be our next David Ortiz. You're our DH there, so take it or leave it. We're about winning, not whining. So hats off to Mr. Cora there as the Red Sox open up at 4:05 at Texas. Crochet versus good friend Mr. Nate Eovaldi. So great there. But Adam is going to talk some hoops. He's going to talk some bases. Just because March Madness is winding down, have no fear. Just talk to Adam. He'll be here every Thursday talking some bases, whether it's KBO, whether it's AAA, whether it's MLB, and we're going to bring him in throughout the week for some afternoon cards. So great stuff coming ahead here. A shout out to our proud sponsors and partnerships. It's WagerWire. Head on over to Google Play. Download the app. It is free. Travis, Zach, Guy, myself, Amber Hawley, Carol Bucks, Matt. The list is endless. Come on board. You'll have a great time, I promise. Viva Tequila, Seltzer, CT Bets, Austin, the team family second to none. 6 flavors in all. The East Coast is cuckoo for coconut. And last but never least, AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Jump on over to Facebook, introduce yourself to Terry Smith, and then head on back to AtlantaSteaksandSeafood.com. Steaks, chops, seafood, wines, appetizers. He's got it all, and he's also got 4 subscription plans. Pick a plan, check the box, set it and forget it. Every 30 days, Mr. Terry Smith and Atlanta Steaks and Seafood will drop off a box, so it'll take you through the rest of the month. Order today or through the week and weekend and get a free 2-pound bag of the big boy jumbo shrimps, whether it's shrimp, scampi, surf and turf, whatever you want. Terry will take good care of you. So without further ado, Mr. Adam Trigger.
What's up, Jeff? Yeah, the sports schedule works out nicely for me because like these are kind of my 2 sports, like the only ones those are kind of my 2 things is college basketball and baseball. So it's like it's perfect for me because college hoop starts to wind down and then baseball starts, and then baseball starts to wind down, and then college hoops is back. So it really does work out nicely for me in that regard.
Well, the dust is settled. We had the 2 play-in games. We had games around the clock Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 1 buzzer beater, and which probably obviously would have been our Cinderella as Maryland and Mr. Queen says not so fast, and beat Colorado State at the buzzer. The chalk has basically come through so far. I was surprised at what a great start the Big Ten got off to. The SEC has been dominant as well. But what have you seen so far in the first weekend?
Nothing like that. I guess, like, you know, I don't think the lack, I hear a lot of like, oh, well, NIL is ruining the tournament, like lack of upsets. I don't really think that that's necessarily the case. I think, like, listen, some years it's just not going to happen, right? It's what makes the run, like a St. Peter's going to the Elite Eight or a 16 over a 1. You can't have that every year, or then there's nothing, you know, it's not, there's nothing like special about it. Now, yeah, like I think it's notable that there hasn't been as many upsets as in recent years, but we had a tournament like this maybe 5-6 years ago. People said the same thing. I'll point to one game in the first round. UC San Diego played like their worst game. Like they played like one of their worst games, and they still only lost by 3. Without a doubt, if they beat Michigan there, which I really think they do more often than not, like that was a really good matchup for that team. They probably match up well with A&M, and they're probably in the Sweet 16 playing Auburn tomorrow, and then no one's even saying a word. So it's like, you know, just it sometimes it doesn't pan out. There was other teams that Colorado State, of course, loses at the buzzer. If they win, like, you know, they're kind of, you're right, Jeff, they're probably the one everyone's latching on to. But, you know, it's the games I think have been good. If you like the lesser tournaments like I do, there's been plenty of buzzer beaters in the NIT, like 3 or 4 so far in the NIT. We've got the Crown starting on Monday, which should be very interesting out in Las Vegas. So no complaints for me, and some really good Sweet 16 matchups. I don't know how good they are to bet. I mean, we'll try to figure that out, of course. But from a viewing standpoint, you got some great matchups this weekend.
Well, and we'll just brush upon this. You know, they said the NIL and the transfer portal has killed the tournament. And I kind of laugh because when you get those Cinderella runs, whether it's to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, or even to the Final 4, then you're getting a Duke versus George Mason, and Duke's favored by 15.5.
UNC against St. Peter's, right? It's like that was never going to be a competitive game. You know, like that's.
So they're talking about the NIL and the transfer portal. There's already 1,000 students in the transfer portal. What this has done now for the mid-majors is they are the farm system. So Adam Trigger goes to St. Peter's, and we offer Adam $50,000, and Adam averages 28 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists. Well, then Kentucky comes over to Adam and says, hey, instead of $50,000, we'll offer you $500,000. And Adam says, thank you very much. I'm a Kentucky Wildcat now.
Yeah, there needs to be a little bit more, like there needs to be something regulating. The only thing I have an issue with is because here's the thing. It works both ways, right? Like I went to Siena. Of course, like we've lost countless numbers of really good players over the, you know, since the transfer portal started. Jalen Pickett, JVM McCollum, like the list goes on. But then you get a kid like Riley Mulvey, who's at Iowa, that wants to come home and play his senior year. You know, he's a local guy. So it's like, you know, so you're probably under the old situation, right? Like you're not going to get a guy like that for his senior year because he's not going to want to sit out a year, or he's not, you know, to just transfer home for 1 year. Now you get a guy that's 6'11", like a big man from the Big Ten that's going to come play in the MAC. So sometimes the mid majors do benefit. The problem is you can't have this stuff going on during the NCAA tournament. That's ridiculous. It should all, like, there should literally be, the NCAA was all about regulating stuff and all about like, you know, violations and stuff. Just be like, no one's going to say a word about any of this stuff until April 15th, right? Or something like that. And then hold the coach. I think there's got to be something to keep the coaches in place, like where it's like, you know what I mean? Like if you, like there's got to be some something to penalize a coach, like a DeVries who shows up for 1 year and then bounces after that year, or like Ben McCollum or something like that. But like the players, I guess I don't mind it as much from the players. And the mid majors, like, yeah, they lose guys that end up having a great year and then want to go to a bigger program. But they do get some of them. Like there is guys that like maybe they underachieve at a big program, fall out of the rotation, decide they want to go, you know, play and be the star, and you get a guy like that. So it is interesting. I don't buy that like upsets are dead though, by any means. I think it's just been this tournament, the way it's worked out, there just hasn't been as many.
4 games, Arizona, Duke right now, Duke -9 with a 154.5. BYU, Alabama, 5 with 175.5. First one to 90 probably wins that game. I'm going to say something about that in a second. Arkansas, Texas Tech. Hats off to Arkansas coach Cal. He takes the job, has his first press conferences, looks at his roster page. He had no one on his roster. And so he puts together 12 guys, couple injuries, couple slumps, heads down to Providence, wins a tough battle in game 1, and then I'll use the word shocked. Very surprisingly, handles St. John's very well there. And then the Maryland against Florida. Florida, for 36.5 minutes, had a battle with my UConn Huskies. I said it since December and Maui. Mahaney didn't blossom. I think Reed showed flashes. It was McNeely or bust. Slam Johnson was not Sonogo or Klingon. And, of course, I thought the biggest disappointment, and meaning I thought he was going to take it to the next level, was Caravan. Quick thoughts on what you saw, Florida, UConn. It was a good battle, but at the end, the better team obviously won.
I think Todd Golden got severely outcoached by Danny Hurley in that game. I actually think UConn was unfortunate not to win that game. Like it now, and we can segue this into tonight's matchup with Maryland. But like, you go back to that game. I mean, that was a tremendous game plan for UConn. Florida looked soft at times. Like UConn took it to them, and really like there was 2 scenarios. Obviously, like everyone will remember the big 3 from Walter Clayton that kind of like gave Florida their biggest lead, and that was like the point where you really felt like Florida was going to get it done. But there was a 3 from Will Richard that like, if he doesn't hit that shot, UConn is probably up 6 with the ball. I think he hit the 3. Golden called a timeout, and like he turned to his team and was like, wake the F up, right? Like that UConn was taking it to them. And I think it was more just a tremendous game plan from Hurley and staff, which we've talked about on the show. I still think they're the best coaching staff in the country, or at least one of them. And so like when I look at this matchup, like, I think Maryland is probably a better team than UConn. I think they have like, a little bit more talent right now. But that would be my concern, would be like Willard isn't half the coach Hurley is, in my opinion. He's not going to game plan for Florida like Hurley was able to. And so I think you're going to get, that's like, I guess my thing is I look and say, well, the number at 6.5, I guess I see a little bit of value on the number to Maryland. And I do think if Maryland plays like their best game, that they can hang around. They could even potentially win this game. But I certainly think this is a better matchup for Florida than UConn was, right? Like there's going to be, Maryland plays a little bit more straight up. So I don't think they're not going to fool Florida like UConn did. Like Danny Hurley had them totally confused. And then like Florida was just able. So I guess some would say, oh, well, they kind of just outclassed him at the end. Like, no, like UConn just missed a couple threes. UConn could have had a 10-point lead in that game if they knocked down a couple threes. And like Florida, I don't know that Florida recovers from that. So can Maryland do that? I'm not sure, because I don't trust Willard, his ability to game plan like I trust like a Danny Hurley. So my gut kind of says Florida wins this game, but that Maryland potentially keeps it close. That's like the thing. I want to come on here and give out bets. These games are very, very difficult to bet. All 4 of these matchups tonight, I really think you can make a case one way or the other. I think I'm going to end up like money line parlaying 2 of the favorites. I know that that's like, not something we encouraged over the course of like the regular season and stuff like that, but you could, something like Florida to Texas Tech maybe might make sense. Alabama to Texas Tech is plus money. That's about all I got, Jeff. I don't know that, I think Florida probably wins, but then like that 6.5 number makes sense. And Maryland, if Maryland hits shots, if Gillespie's hitting shots and they're knocking down shots, like they're going to be in this game. So just a very challenging handicap all the way around in college basketball tonight.
If you, I mean, the number opened at 155. It's a 157. Our friends at the Superbook, where your backdrop is right now, just moved it to 157 and a half. Good morning, Mr. Murray. Hope all is well in your world there. Is this a roll the ball out first to 80? Florida's team totals 81 and a half. So if you don't want to worry about backdoors or anything like that, I mean, does Maryland want to go toe-to-toe, a mano and says, hey, we can outscore you here?
I think they're going to have to. I think that's the only way Maryland has a chance in this game, because there's not much Maryland can do defensively, in my opinion, that is gonna cause Florida to not be able to score. That's why what UConn did was so impressive. That's why what Hurley and his staff was able to come up with was so impressive, because I just don't think, they had some switching going on. Their bigs move around on that UConn team. Maryland's just, they're going to be it's going to be more straight up. And I don't know, you could go Maryland plays some zone. I don't know that that's a good idea. Florida will absolutely torch you from three if they get going. Florida can score in transition. So it's the over does kind of make sense, I suppose, because you may get some Maryland points, but the only way Maryland's going to win this game is if they're scoring. So it's there is some correlation there, in my opinion. I think Maryland hanging around means that this game went way over. I think that's probably safe to say.
In the nightcap over there in the West, Arkansas, Texas Tech opened at 5.5 for the 147. Now 5.5 for the 148.5. As you know, I know everyone watching these shows understand. The closer we get to tip off, the general public is going to take the favorite and the overs here. Again, I think Coach Cal playing with house money here. A Texas Tech that I saw a long run coming. I would say on paper, I expect Texas Tech to win, but I didn't expect Arkansas to beat St. John's. So anything's in play here, Adam.
Yeah, this is probably the one I kind of have the strongest opinion on. And it really comes down to that number being in that 5.5 spot. That's where I'm just my number's sort of right on there. I've got this 6. The line's 5.5. It's tough to lay that. It's tough to lay 5.5 sometimes, especially, it just feels like sometimes they come down to 2, because 2-3 possessions, right? It's you could be in a close game, hit some free throws, get to 6. You could be up 10, they knock down a 3, and suddenly that 5.5 is in jeopardy. So it's tough, but I do think this is a better matchup. I think it's a much worse matchup for Arkansas than St. John's was. St. John's it's something that we talked about all year with them. If they were going to get done in at some point, it was going to be their inability to hit shots, and they just couldn't hit shots against Arkansas. If they're shooting the ball, they're probably going to win that game. And that's the thing that Texas Tech is going to do. I mean, they can go nuclear from the perimeter. They're a great shot making team. And the other thing that Texas Tech will do that's going to make life difficult for Arkansas here is force them to run half-court offense, because Texas Tech is very, very good at cutting off perimeter or cutting off transition. They're not going to give up much transition at all. It's part of the reason that I didn't think Drake was the best matchup for Texas Tech, because Drake only wants to sit in the half court. They're they don't want to run any transition stuff. They want to be in the half court. And I looked at that and I said, that might be tricky for Texas Tech, because if Drake is running efficient offense, they'll be in that game. Arkansas does not want to do that. They want to get up and down. They need those transition points, right? They need those hustle points, which they were able to get in some capacity against St. John's. I just don't know that I see Arkansas and Coach Cal doing it much in the half court to win this game, right? We talk about coaching. I said Nico Medved was I think we were on this show before the tournament started, or maybe it was my other one, but I was Medved will be a coaching mismatch for anyone he goes up against. He's going to be the better coach. And we saw him 3 seconds away from beating Maryland as an 8-point underdog. Grant McCaslin is the better coach here. It's not even close. He is a far superior game coach to Coach Calipari. I just don't think that this is one that you can just win with your athletes. This is not the matchup. Arkansas was able to sort of win that St. John's game with their athletes, beat a Kansas team that's had issues all year by being more athletic. Can't do that against Texas Tech, in my opinion. So I really do like Texas Tech. Haven't decided if I'm willing to lay the number yet, but I certainly will look at this, especially where the game time is, and say, what one of those two early games can I play in the Texas Tech money line? Because I really think they win here.
The East region, the early game, BYU, Alabama. Alabama opened 3.5 for the 174.5. Now 175.5 with the 5. If you haven't watched BYU, this game is going to be so intriguing because it's the bottom line is here. Everyone looks at Alabama. Everyone looks at the SEC, and then they say, BYU, what? If you haven't watched this team, it's Adam, whoever is hitting the most threes will win this game. And there's absolutely, if Alabama makes more threes and BYU wins, I'd be shocked, or vice versa. On paper, Alabama, look what they did to St. Mary's. Now you got this team called BYU, but BYU is a live dog in my eyes here, Adam.
So I'll say something slightly different. If Alabama is making their threes, there is zero chance they lose this game, in my opinion. They will have to miss a considerable number of shots to lose this game outright. Now, that number is, again, like the books are not gonna, there's not gonna be a ton of line value at this point in the year. There just isn't. You want value, go find who's playing and not playing in the Crown next week. Or maybe you get a favorable line in the NIT. You're not going to get like spread value in many Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four games. So it's really just like, if you love a matchup, maybe, but like all these numbers are spot on. 5 is spot on. 5.5 is what the number should be for this. Alabama should, I was on BYU over the weekend against Wisconsin, was fortunate to hold on there, but Wisconsin was getting quite a few open threes in that game. And I would be really surprised if BYU can eliminate open threes for Alabama. So, and of course, as we know, what Alabama wants to do is drive to the rim and then kick it out for a 3. I think they're going to get that here, no problem. Now, they will go in shooting. It is possible, neutral venue. I think this one's in Newark. I don't know that they would have. Maybe they would have more of an issue at Lucas Oil Stadium with the sight lines or whatever. Listen, any team can go cold, I suppose. And that would be and that's where I agree with you. If Alabama if one of these teams has a drought, the other one's probably going to be have the upper hand, because BYU should score a considerable amount of points in this game as well. That's also that's news to no one, Jeff, because the total is 176. 175, 176. So that's also not, that's known at this point that these two teams are going to score. I think the more likely team to have the drought here is BYU, because I just think that I do have Alabama's defense rated higher than BYU's, I would say marginally higher. So I think if you look at these two teams, I have Alabama as the better defensive team. I also think Alabama is pretty much guaranteed to generate open looks from the perimeter. And if they're knocking them down, it's going to be tough for BYU. I also think that it's, BYU is probably better off if they can slow it down a little bit, based on, because of obviously Alabama plays the fastest pace in the country, but St. Mary's couldn't slow Alabama down. So if St. Mary's can't slow Alabama down, then BYU is probably not going to be able to either. So I do agree. This has all the makings of crazy potential, awesome shootout, high 80s, first one in 90 wins type thing. But I also think it's more likely that Alabama wins. So maybe I go Bama to Texas Tech. That's plus money right now. You can go Alabama to Texas Tech in a money line parlay, get plus 110, plus 105, something like that. That sounds pretty good to me. But I would lean Bama here. I think they just have more firepower, and their ability to score in bunches, specifically from the perimeter, is tilts the scales in their favor here, in my opinion.
And last but not least, Arizona and Duke, 9:39 tip-off, opened at 9.5 with a 152, now 9.5 with a 154.5 as the total moved up 2.5 points. Pre-flop, and we had some futures on Florida, Final Four, Florida cut the nets down. Just through an eye test, you need that. There's always that one game, and maybe Florida, UConn, that was the one game Florida struggled. But so far, Duke, Cooper Flag. They've just been an absolute monster, a beast. Now they're prohibitive favorites to cut the net down. Listen, I like Love. I like Arizona. I think they can play with this team for about 20, 25 minutes. Maybe they pull a UConn here. Maybe they get to the 30, 32 minute. But at the end, when the dust settles, I think Duke will move on. But as you said, and I said, I hate to lay a 9.5. Next thing you know, it's a 15-point lead, 2 threes, and then it lands on 8.
Yeah, I don't think Arizona has any chance to play with Duke. I think they do have a chance to like hang around and then like nip the spread at the end, right? Like go down 15, suddenly they're back to 8. So like I certainly lean Duke minus 9.5 here. This feels a lot like UConn San Diego State last year. Duke feels a lot like UConn last year. They're so dominant in those first 2 rounds that like, you know, I wouldn't be that surprised if they faced like no resistance until the Final Four. I think a couple months ago I said Duke, you know, Duke's that should be the easiest Final Four. Well before the bracket came out, I think on this show we talked about it. I said Duke's going to be in the Final Four, and sure enough, when the bracket came out, I was like, they might not face any resistance till the Final Four, and it certainly looks like that's going to be the case. I don't know that there's a team that can beat Duke, not named Houston or Auburn. Like they're just, you know, I think that potential Duke-Houston matchup would be phenomenal. But as far as this is concerned, Arizona, these 2 teams played earlier this year, 69-55 final. Arizona really struggled to score in that game. They're going to probably struggle to score again in this game. So is there like a world where Arizona like hangs around and covers 9.5? Yeah, that certainly could happen. But I would be really, really surprised if this game is like ultra competitive. I feel like Duke probably builds their lead at some point. Maybe Arizona makes a run, but this is the one I kind of thought about laying the points, Jeff. I've got this 11.5 on my number is 11.5. So 9.5 certainly shows a little bit of line value, but it is tough. Like you know, Arizona, I mean, there are ways where they hang around in this game. I just don't think it's going to happen, but something was telling me to not lay 10 as well, even though last year I played against this. I took San Diego State when it got to 12.5. I said, how can I possibly be getting 12.5 here? And UConn just blasted them. So no play for me at this point, but a very strong lean to Duke.
Before we wrap this up, it's opening day. There's plenty of baseball games on the docket. Is there any one game today or series that you got your eyes on?
Yeah, I mean, it's opening day. I think these numbers on opening day are going to probably be as difficult to find value as any day of the year, right? Like we've had matchups set for a couple of days. Everyone's got their top lineup out there. So I'm struggling to find much line value. I guess one series that I'm looking at is A's Mariners. So I really like this Oakland A's team. I would 100% play A's plus 1.5 here today if it was playable. If it was minus 120 or better. Unfortunately, at minus 150, kind of you know, tough to justify laying $1.50 to get the plus 1.5. But so a couple of things. One, I really like the A's. I'll talk about the A's first. I think this team is going to far exceed expectations this year. I believe market expectation for them is about 70, 71, 72 wins. I will go as far as to say I think the A's can play 500 baseball this year. I think there's that much upside with the guys that they have. Lawrence Butler broke out last year. They bring Brett Rooker back, who's been very vocal about wanting to stay with that organization, and then he does stay with that organization. I think he's primed for a big year. Jacob Wilson, Jack Wilson was a guy I used to pretend I was in my backyard when I was playing shortstop as a kid. His son, Jacob Wilson's going to turn out to be a far better big leaguer from a hitting standpoint. That's for sure. He looks like the complete package. And I think he would have broke out last year if he didn't tweak his hamstring. So when he was called up, he tweaked it. I believe it was his hamstring rounding third, ended up missing like 2 months that he would have probably been at the big league level, and then had to kind of work his way back in the minors. So he really never got up to the big leagues other than for like a couple of games last year. I mean, he very well could win Rookie of the Year. I think it's 9-1 right now, 8-1 on him to win the Rookie of the Year. And if he ends up panning out like that, that is a roster with some really good they have some great offensive players. I think they're going to score some runs. And then their pitching, which is a question mark, still has a lot of upside. We know Mason Miller turned out to be like the breakout reliever. There are some other guys that were kind of coming up through the ranks last year that profile is really solid bullpen guys. And so if you can get something like from the starting pitching, listen, Luis Severino is going to take the mound today. Biggest signing the A's have ever had from a guaranteed money standpoint. They actually went out and spent some money. Like, this might be the first time in a long time that the A's are actually trying to win baseball games, Jeff. Like, they're going out. They signed a pitcher. They've got to get ready to probably move to Las Vegas in a couple of years. I think you actually see the A's try to be competitive now. And now they're playing in Sacramento at Sutter Health Park, where the Sacramento River Cats play. 14,000 people, that they're going to embrace having a major league team. So they're suddenly going to go from playing in front of 3,000, 4,000 fans that don't care in this terrible Oakland Coliseum to playing at a pretty nice AAA ballpark that had a bunch of upgrades done in the offseason. I think it's going to be a great year for them. I think there's going to be a ton of juice behind them that there wasn't in years past. They've got all these young guys that have shown promise at AA and AAA in their organization. And then you've got big league ready guys like Butler, Rooker, Wilson, Miller, at the back end of that bullpen. Severino is a very consistent starter. Like, he's been hurt, but when he's been healthy, he's been very good. He had a great season last year for the Mets. So here, I felt like I deserved a little bit better of a price to go against Logan Gilbert at home. But the Mariners, on the other hand, are a team that I think you can fade this team a little bit. They've won 85 or more games in 4 straight seasons. And they're priced as like an 85 to 90 win option again this year, Jeff. They hit 224 as a team last year. They were 10th in the American League in runs scored, and they did nothing to improve on that. So essentially, the Mariners are looking and saying, okay, Julio Rodriguez, we need you to be what you were a couple of years ago. Randy Arozarena, we need you to be what you were at your best. If they don't get that, I think they're going to be in a lot of one-run games. That's why I was so sort of like interested in getting the road team here plus 1.5. But the books did their job. They made it minus 150, and I just didn't see enough value to fire. But I will be looking that way in this series. I will find a spot at some point this weekend, probably to back the A's.
Well, Adam, as always, we can't thank you enough. We got Sweet 16 opening day MLB. Everyone knows on X or Twitter, whatever we're calling it today, follow you at Adam Trigger WT. But tell them what you got at Wager Talk and, of course, your show schedule.
Yeah, so I haven't bet anything yet for today. I pretty much just gave you everything I was thinking about, with the exception of 1 or 2 baseball games that, again, are price sensitive. I'm kind of waiting to see if they come into range. If I play one of those, that'll be up at Wager Talk. I am doing a live show with Brian Power, another one of our Wager Talk buddies, at 1 o'clock. So we're going to kind of circle back on some of these Sweet 16 games. If I do bet something, I will give it out on that show. But yeah, as always, you can find me on Twitter. I'm always on Twitter at AdamTriggerWT. I post a lot of my stuff there. And then for everything, wagertalk.com. Like I said, we'll try to show up with baseball winners, regardless of what league it is. If I have something in Korea, I follow AAA very closely. I'm probably one of the few that's actually kind of grinding out AAA from a betting standpoint on a daily basis. I'll bring those as well here. AAA opening day tomorrow. Looking forward to that, Jeff.
Adam, have a great day, a better weekend, and we'll catch up soon.
Thanks for having me.
Adam Trigger, go follow him at Adam Trigger WT, of course, at Wager Talk. Quick commercial break. When we come back, Mr. Tyler Wyatt. Stay tuned.
Jared, hey, we're going to need you to tone it down with the Summer Friday thing, okay?
What are you talking about?
Well, for one, it's not summer anymore.
Oh, really?
Coconut. Also, who is this?
I'm the caddy.
Oh, he's my intern.
Sorry, intern. I'm his intern.
Yeah, he's doing a great job.
No golfing in the office, okay? Summer Fridays are over. You can keep the Hawaiian shirt, but the rest of this stuff, all right? Are you grilling?
Oh, yeah. Did you want a burger or a hot dog?
No, grilling in the office.
That's a good point. We should take this outside.
No, that don't. You put that right back down.
Yo, it's all in the hips.
Oh, dude, come on, we gotta go. Let's go.
Without further ado, Mr. Tyler Wyatt. What's up, T?
Had a long travel day yesterday. Supposed to have gotten back about 7 p.m. Eastern. Got back about 4 a.m. Eastern. But we're alive and kicking, and it's Sweet 16 Thursday. So I can't. You know what? I'm not going to complain. I'm here. I'm in one piece. I'm alive. I'm healthy relatively. Don't have to have knee surgery. Hey, win's a win. I did try to play a couple of World Series circuit events over the last couple of days. The AC was out in the horseshoe ballroom there. You're very familiar with the layout of Paris Ballroom and the old Bally's, the horseshoe ballroom. Air conditioning was out. It was about 91 degrees Monday and Tuesday. So yeah, it's been a rough couple of days for LTY, but we're still here. You know, that's all that matters, Jeff.
Well, we're glad to have you for a few minutes before you get your I assume you got your radio spot in Knoxville at 11:30. Is that correct?
Yeah. 11:30, 11:32. We can fit a lot in though between now and then.
Well, the dust is settled. We don't need to go into the antics. I want to applaud Mark Pope. I want to applaud your Kentucky Wildcats because you really stuck it to Illinois. On paper, it looked like an Illinois team that was going to be able to do what they wanted, roll the ball out. First one to 80, 85 was going to win. Pope and the Wildcats said, nah, not so fast. We're moving on. Took it right to them. Surprised on how, I don't want to use the word easy it was, but it sure looked pretty easy, Tyler.
Yeah, I was a backer in Illinois in that one, so not, it wasn't the worst loss for me there to lose and see my Kitty Cats go. Illinois have been playing really good basketball the last month, especially. They had a hiccup there in late January, February. They were kind of figuring some things out. This is a team that's really, really talented. I thought physically they could give it, stick it to Kentucky. That's when Kentucky's been, down or has struggled. It's when teams are more physical than them. They can get up and down and shoot and push tempo, Kentucky. But when teams kind of, out muscle them, it's, that's when they have struggled. But that was a really, really efficient performance from Kentucky. Yeah, really, you didn't feel like Illinois had any control of that game in the second half. They make a run there. I think cut it to 4 or 5 late, and then Kentucky goes on a 4 or 5-0 run and stretches it back out. But yeah, this is very, very impressive performance for Kentucky. If you had told me when, I guess, the rumors of Calipari going to Arkansas were kind of circulating over that weekend, and then we find out there, on Sunday that Cal has taken the job. I don't know who the coach is. If you had said, hey, you're going to get a former player and you're going to make it to the Sweet 16, I would have been all in. But my concern with when they announced that Pope was taking the job, my only question with him from a basketball perspective or point of view was, would he be able to recruit at a high enough level in the SEC or as a top 10, top 15 program to succeed year in and year out? And he's proven that to be true. He can do that. He's got a couple of kids that are in the top 10. Got lucky that, 2 of the top 25 kids in the class next year are Kentucky kids. But a kid in Malachi Marino is a kid who could have went to Duke, North Carolina, UConn, could have went to, could have picked what school he wanted to go to. So the recruiting box he checked. All the other boxes, the type of man that he is, never in doubt. The guy has never had anything attached to him in a negative light. Knock on wood, everyone's capable of that. The way he coaches, exciting style of basketball. He likes to shoot threes. He likes to go, fast. He likes to score points. And I think some of BYU's success was some of what Pope left that team. So you're seeing, we'll get a chance to see them in the early slate tonight against Alabama. That team is built on the pillars that Mark Pope, kind of put in place there. So this is a guy that, he's made a believer of me. They could get beat, tomorrow. Tennessee could beat them in the third meeting by 15. I wouldn't consider this, this season anything but a success. But yeah, it's been a chalky tournament. I don't think that was a bit of a surprise that that John Calipari is the lone double-digit seed as we get into Sweet 16 action here in about 8 hours. That was a bit of a surprise. I thought, just the way the college basketball season was this season, I thought that we would see multiple, double-digit seeds make it to the Sweet 16. Not the case. I was a bit on edge to see what the SEC would do because there were a lot of top-heavy, Florida, Auburn, Alabama, Tennessee have been, inside that top 5 for most of the season. But I was really concerned with what the rest of the conference was going to be able to do, to get 7 teams in the top 16. That was, I think, a success for the conference. Not sure that everyone else around the country likes to see that. But yeah, not a lot of sexy games so far. That Colorado State Maryland game was exciting. But this tournament has kind of left a lot to be desired. Maybe that changes and we get a lot of excitement here tonight, tomorrow, and obviously in the Elite Eight over the weekend. But yeah, a lot of big names that are still left. So the storyline there, still have a lot left to write here in the next couple of weeks. But I don't want to say that I'm a bit bummed at where we are, but everything will work out, I think, over the next couple of days. I think we'll get some excitement here.
You usually see carnage in the first weekend. You might see a quote-unquote Cinderella. Obviously, Colorado State would have been that team. You sometimes see a slip-up in the Sweet 16. Does someone somehow get through the Elite Eight? Then you see 2 1s, a 2, and maybe a 3, 4, or 5. I think we're heading that way where the cream is definitely rising to the top. This Duke team, Adam said it, and I will agree with him. Pre-flop, we had Florida tickets, Final Four. We had Florida tickets to cut the net down. They were my team. But this Duke team looks pretty damn good, and they are rolling like UConn was last year.
Yeah, I landed in Vegas there on Thursday, walked through the book, the Duke game's on the TV, and I'm talking to, some sports friends there, and he said, "Look at Flag." And I look up and why is this kid in the game? But he looked great. Young bones, young ligaments, young tendons, I guess. I thought, maybe they would have kept him on the bench until at least the second round. But yeah, Duke team looks like the Duke team before the injury. Very little doubt that they're capable of winning a title at this point. Flag looks healthy. 3 other probably first-round picks, at least 2 other lottery picks besides Flag on that roster. So there's, no reason that they shouldn't be. The game against Arizona tonight, it's an interesting one, big number. Our number actually backs Arizona a little bit. I've got this one a little closer to 7, like 6.8. So I do have a ticket there with the Wildcats to at least cover. It's an Arizona team that can score. They'll like to push the pace. This game should be played, total I think is pretty close. I have a number at 155, so maybe a point or so off of where the market is. But this is an Arizona team. Tobe Awaka, a really, really solid perimeter guy that can go inside and bang around with some of the Duke bigs. It's an Arizona offense that's capable of hitting, really getting hot from 3. Duke's perimeter defense will need to be on point tonight. But yeah, this is an Arizona team capable of at least making this a game late into the second half. So Duke will have to watch out. But yeah, this is, Cooper Flag, number 1 pick. But what Knuppel has done, what's, some of their other guys have been able to do is equally as important as what Flag has done. There were some knocks on him early, and especially that Kentucky game, turning it over a couple of times. There were a lot of questions. He answered those quickly. Weeks after that, I think those were answered. It's a Duke team, though, that I do have projected to make it to the finals, though. So, it's hard to say that as a Kentucky fan. I want Duke to make it to a finals, but I do have an exacta there with Duke on one side of that bracket. So, but yeah, the game that I'm looking at is Maryland. It's a Florida team that showed in that UConn game. I watched every single second of that one. I think UConn showed a blueprint for success, and it's a Maryland team that plays a pretty similar style of basketball to UConn. That that may have been the buzzer beater that Maryland needed. That could have been the one that saves them and allows them to pull the upset and make it to an Elite Eight and ultimately potentially a Final Four. That's a Maryland team really, really impressed with. The freshman there obviously hitting the bank shot buzzer beater, tough kid. But that's the nickname Crab 5 I love. Whoever made that, I hope you're making all the money. I hope the trademark gods are just raining money down on you. That may be the greatest nickname I've heard, maybe ever. I like, if Kentucky gets knocked out on Friday and Maryland can pull off the upset of Florida tonight, that'll be the team that I pull for. I like their coach. He's he's a walking soundbite. It's just a team of guys that don't get a lot of national publicity, outside of the DMV there. They just not a lot of spotlight on them. So this is a chance, I think, tonight in that second game of the early slate for them to do some things. That they're a really, really talented offensive basketball team. They're capable of scoring 8 to 10 points in a couple of blinks of the eye. So Florida will have to watch it defensively. And if they allow Maryland to get out to a lead like UConn did in this game, and Florida's going to be in a bit of trouble there. So a lot of, you for one will be maybe on the edge of your seat. This is a Maryland team absolutely capable of getting a win tonight.
You got a couple minutes before your next spot. You talked, obviously, Arizona and Maryland, 6 other games between tonight and tomorrow. And as you know, you just watch these numbers from the openers to last night to where they are. Public runs to the windows. They bet the favorite and the overs. The other 6 games, do you have any edges or leans coming into tonight and tomorrow, Tyler?
Yeah, back to Arkansas there in the first game against Kansas, money line. I'm going back to that well tonight. I think Arkansas gets a win over Texas Tech. This is an Arkansas team. There aren't many matchups where at least their starting 5, the teams are going to have a huge edge, loaded with 4-star, 5-star kids. It's a team built of Kentucky transfers and kids that Cal was recruiting there in the 25 class to UK. This is a team playing really good, playing their best basketball right now, which is all that matters. There were a lot, started out the SEC, 0 for 4, 0 for 5, fixed some things, and then into the season playing really, really good basketball. It's a Texas Tech team that, they're physical. Arkansas can out physical, I think, almost anyone that's left. Not a lot of teams that can say that. Arkansas plus, Arkansas money line. The Kentucky and Tennessee total, 144.5, 145.5. It's bounced around. We have that one 155, almost 10 points over. So backer and over there. And then that last game, Michigan and Auburn. That's a big number and way too many in our opinion. I have Michigan just over 6.5. So a possession under where that market is. So it'll be a backer and the Wolverines. That's a team that they have the bigs that can get in there with Broom. They have the guards who can do enough. Auburn has shown times where they can play games in the upper 50s and low 60s. Played a game, a snoozer there with Tennessee in the 50s. They've also won games in the 90s with Alabama, so they're able to adjust the tempo. But this is a Michigan team, I think, has the bodies to get in there and bang around with Auburn. I think they can make that an interesting game. Purdue and Houston. The total on that one is low, 131.5, 132. It seems we have 137.7, so played over in Purdue and Houston. It's a Houston team that defensively is what they've been known for. It's kind of been their namesake. Purdue, it's been an up and down team offensively, but I think the total there a little bit low. We played over in that one.
Well, Tyler, we're blessed and honored to have you. He's here always every Thursday. Congrats. I'm so glad to hear you don't need the surgery. Glad you're back. Go Wildcats, go Wildcats. And gave you exactly 4 minutes to your next spot, and we'll catch up with you next Wednesday or Thursday.
Sounds good, JD. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Tyler Wyatt, go follow him at Tyler Wyatt Bets at Odds Culture. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll wrap it up. Stay tuned. ECSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history and stats. You could also sign up for sportsbooks and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Welcome to Good Food. At Atlanta Steaks and Seafood, you'll find the highest quality meats from a variety of delicious cuts. Tomahawks, salmon fillets, ribeyes, and plenty more to choose from. With an easy-to-use, mobile-friendly website, selecting your pick of meat is made quick and easy. And don't forget, worrying about your dinner is a thing of the past. Check out some of the amazing subscription packages that Atlanta Steaks and Seafood has to offer. From fresh steak and seafood straight to your door. Order online at atlantasteaksandseafood.com.
Oh, great day. Great. It's Christmas here. Shout out to Adam Trigger at Adam Trigger WT from Wager Talk, and of course Tyler Wyatt at Tyler Wyatt Bets and at Odds Culture. Sweet 16 opening day MLB. Great turnout here. If you haven't already, jump on over to YouTube at East Coast Sports Investors. Follow us, subscribe. It's free. Tell a friend. Come on back to Twitter. X at EC Sports Invest. Follow us. We'll follow you back. And yes, a lot of people have been asking 2 ways to get involved in the ECSI VIP. All our plays sent to your cell phone via text and emailed. You can head on over to eastcoastsportsinvestors.com. Top right corner, plans and pricing, scroll all the way down. For $3 a day, enjoy our ECSI VIP. I call it a gym membership. It's $3 a day. Come on board, all sports sent right to your phone. And yes, we have partnered with Dub Club. Okay. We've done a lot of work. We've done some talking, and this is a deal second to none. If you go on to our homepage on Twitter at EC Sports Invest, click the link right there, Dub Club. And we're offering this one-time special here for $2 a day. That's right, $2 a day. Go to that, click the link, and you'll see our homepage. You'll see a March Madness package, and you'll see an MLB first pitch. And if you look at it, you'll see NHL and NBA playoffs. So there's $60 there. It's $2 a day. And if you hit the promo code, it's 10% off. So it's actually $54 to get 10 years of public service. A team second to none, a brand of transparency second to none, for just $2 a day, guys. And I'm losing money on that. We're losing. That doesn't even pay the light bill right here. So go to EC Sports Invest on Twitter. Click the Dub Club link on our profile page. Sign up today. Get some MLB first pitch. Get some March Madness plays, and come on board for just $2 a day. 3 o'clock, Lou Finacaro, Fight Night Fortunes, UFC Mexico City. Enjoy yourselves, guys. Have a blessed day, and hope to see you soon.